For those on the Teams meeting, can you verify if you can hear this well?
Yeah. No. We need to work on that.
I can hear you.
Excellent, great. Thank you very much. I think we're ready.
Okay, thank you, Eduardo. I'd like to go ahead and call the meeting to order and start and ask you all to please stand to do the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now we can proceed to roll call.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Before we go there, again, my name is Eduardo Galo, the Executive Director, and welcome back to the first in-person meeting of the Transportation Policy Board. As you can see, we tried our best to comply with the latest guidance and regarding social distancing, and at the same time comply with the Open Meetings Act for the state of Texas. So apologies also for, it looks a little bit, but next time we will be better organized, especially providing the parking permits. That's, I have to admit, I remember that at 4:45 yesterday, but.
Yeah, we remember that.
Right, but kudos to David Coronado who managed that part of the, we worked together, and it was obviously late when we sent it out, but thank you very much to all of you for being here. All right, so let's start with roll call. As always, we'll do by alphabetical order, but we'll start with the chair and vice chair. So Chair Lino Ortega,
Present.
Vice Chair Walter Miller,
Present.
Mayor Antonio Araujo, Mayor Ivy Alanos,
Here.
Senator Cesar Blanco,
Here?
Senator Joseph Cervantes, Frank Doolittle,
Here.
Representative Art Fierro,
Present.
Representative Mayor Gonzalez, City Manager Tommy Gonzalez. All right.
Here.
All right. Representative Cassandra Hernandez.
Here.
Yvette Hernandez.
Present.
Commissioner Ileana Olguin. Representative Raimundo Lara.
Can we be on virtual? Can we be on
Well, we
virtual?
made the announcement before, so
Okay.
not you. Mayor Oscar Leeson,
Good morning, here.
Mayor Manuel Leos,
Present.
Representative Cici Lizárraga,
Present.
Chuck McMahon,
Here.
Representative Joe Moody,
Present.
Alderman Esteban Olivas, Representative Claudia Ordaz Perez, Norma Palacios,
Good morning here.
Mayor Javier Perea,
Present.
Representative Henry Rivera,
Good morning.
Sam Rodriguez,
Present.
Mayor Benjamin Romero, Judge Ricardo Samaniego,
Buenos días. Present.
Ellen Smythe, Tomas Trevino,
Present.
and Mayor Diana Tupi. All right, so we do have form.
Representative.
Representative Ordaz Perez just
Good morning.
walked in.
So we're ready.
I want to welcome everybody to our first in-person meeting in over a year. And it's wonderful to see so many faces that are safe and are able to return and be here with us. We were pretty much forced to have an in-person meeting because the executive order with regard to meetings, public meetings changed. And our executive director has done a really good job in trying to space everybody to keep it as safe as possible. We're going to try to, with plenty of discussion at the same time, move through the agenda and do it in a orderly and reasonable fashion, because I know there still is a concern for some people on actually being in person. It's my understanding that we were supposed to have a new New Mexico state representative by the name of Ray Lara has he joined us?
No, actually, Ray Lara was the representative, the board member, and now he's being replaced by Representative Willie Habib,
Right?
who is joining us by phone.
And so is he online then?
Right. He is
All right.
online.
Well, I'd like to welcome then Representative Willie Madrid, who is going to be now part of the policy board. So the next order of business is the public comment period. Is anybody signed up to do public comment?
Yes.
So the comment that was requested that we read, is that for item 2 or?
It's not specified, it's, I guess it would be now.
If it's okay, I can start with that. All right, so this comment was submitted by Ms. Veronica Carrillo, and she requested that this be read during the open comment period. So, and this is a letter as stated. The downtown 10 expansion should not continue to be carried forward. There are a number of unanswered questions about how it will impact the heart of the city and funding for your regional projects. Only a fraction of the $750 million cost has been funded. Where is the rest of the funding coming from? How will the downtown 10 expansion project affect the scope of your project? And how will increased traffic affect the neighborhoods bordering I-10? A group of concerned citizens have been looking at local studies showing how car and truck pollution, especially truck pollution, hurts people's health and well-being. The negative health effect of traffic pollution is irrefutable. Most chilling is a negative impact traffic pollution has on the health of our children here in El Paso. El Paso has a long history of being polluted by tiny particles created by traffic. Studies done here in El Paso show that on days when small particles are in the air, children's emergency admissions increase. Recent local citizen air monitoring shows that the highest levels of 2.5 particular exposure citywide occur near very highly trafficked areas. We must direct traffic out of the heart of the city. The downtown 10 expansion is not the project that we really need. Traffic can be directed to the northeast bypass. This is a smarter, more cost-effective solution to moving trade-related traffic and helps alleviate concerns about worsening air quality in the heart of our community. Thank you, Veronica Carrillo.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yes, Miguel Juarez, he didn't specify what item. He's on the.
Is he on?
Yep, Mr. Juarez,
Yes, can you hear me?
yes, we got
Can
it.
everybody hear him?
Yes.
Yes, my name is Dr. Miguel Juarez. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
I heard a beep.
Yes, we can hear you. And just to remind you that you have 3 minutes.
Okay, I studied the Paso's early highways, which were the topic of my dissertation at UTEP. As an urban historian, I'm calling in opposition of some of the projects listed in the regional mobility strategy plan for the draft of it, and especially the widening of the freeway from Executive Center to Copia. Several years ago, we were told that these projects, projects like this, like the widening of I-10, were only concepts, right? But now with the availability of infrastructure and federal transportation funding, many of these projects are now real possibilities. I'm pretty sure that you're going to, the EPMPO and your supporters are going to try to do everything possible to make real, right, and to build this over. But I want to call your attention, in the late 1960s, the community was not at the table in the creation of El Paso's early freeway. There was a lot of community destruction. A lot of people were scattered all over the city, and it was not a fair and equitable process, especially in the neighborhood south of I-10. And also, none of you live in the neighborhoods which will be impacted by highway widening, like in the 60s. And back in the 60s, the process is not really transparent there's a lot of behind the scenes issues happening. There's a lot of lobbyists. There's a lot of people with agendas and so forth. You know, as many of you are politicians, right? This is what you do. And well, I went out for a scenario for what happened previously in the 60s. Let that not happen again, because there are many vulnerable communities which will be impacted. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any more public comment?
But so the folks that signed up here are for item 2?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
So we can now move on to item 1, discussion and action on the agenda. And that would be the approval of the minutes of the July 23rd, 2021 meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion approved. Second.
Is there a second? Okay, we have a second. Is there any discussion on the minutes, on the motion? And now we can do it a little bit different. I assume that we can have all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? It passes unanimously. We are I'm gonna need a motion to move up item 6 on the agenda.
Or it's item 5?
It's 7?
No, 5.
5, okay. All right, so I need a motion to move up item 5 on the agenda in front of item 2. So
Motion to
move,
move up.
is there is a second? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
It passes. So let us go then to item 5 on the agenda.
All right, so let me read it's a report, the Congestion Management Process CMP Segment Performance Analysis. And Sonia Perez from EPMPO will make a presentation, but let me just explain why we're doing this. As you may remember, the Congestion Management Process, or CMP, is a very important process and document that the EPMPO prepares, addressing specifically congested areas today and in the future. And what it does is that it highlights, where we currently, where future congestion will exist, so that we can plan ahead and look at projects for that. So the CMP was used as one of the criteria, or one of the sources to select projects that you will see on item 2 as a project list. So we thought it would be a good thing to, before we discuss the project list, to talk about the CMP. So again, Sonia Perez will be making that presentation.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Sonia Perez. I'm transportation planner with the El Paso MPO. And as Eduardo explained, this presentation is provided to you as a summary of the segment performance analysis developed by UTEP under the interlocal agreement. But it's also one of the elements that was used to identify the potential projects for RMS 2050. The other elements were the multimodal network evaluation that was presented by HNTP a few months ago with the study map they developed, and also the priority projects included in RMS 2020. Before I introduce to you Luis Garcia, who is the undergraduate student at UTEP that's been working on this, I want to provide you an overview of the CMP process in order to better understand where this analysis falls within the process. The CMP is an ongoing process consisting of the following 8 elements, and I know it's hard to see there. I hope you can read it in your handouts, but the 8 elements are: develop congestion management objectives, define CMP network, develop performance measures, monitor system performance, analyze congestion problems and needs, identify and assess strategies, program and implement strategies, and evaluate the strategy effectiveness. If you recall, back in 2019, we completed an update to the CMP, which revised and updated elements 1 through 5, and also identified the program strategies in Destino 2045 NTP. what Luis is going to present to you today is the ongoing data collection and analysis needed to monitor the congested segments and to support and evaluate the effectiveness of the recommended strategies. This is element number 6. Also, the evaluation of the effect of completed projects or effectiveness of the strategies. And this is element number 8. So I'll let Luis to continue with the presentation.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Luis Garcia. So the purpose of this document is to present an analysis of various performance measures in congested corridors as required by the Federal Highway Administration. So the CMP was recently updated in 2019, and it analyzes the regional transportation network and has identified several congested arterial and highway segments that are of particular interest for the analysis of capacity and non-capacity strategies that are aiming the reduction and the management of congestion within these corridors. So for this, in order to perform this analysis, we created planning area analysis in order to separate the corridors into various areas. So these areas include northwest, northeast, and central, east, lower valley, far lower valley. And with this separation, we are able to much easier or in a much clearer way identify how one corridor affects the overall congestion in the area. So this gave us a good understanding of how these congestion issues can be addressed. And also, we provided an explanation for some of the variations in the metrics for these congestion issues, such as construction of projects that could be taking place in the area, that could account for probably an increase during the analysis of the period for the analysis. So here we have a map of the highway congested segments, which mostly lie in the I-10 corridor. We have 8 different highway segments identified, one also in Joe Battle and another one on US 54. And then we also have provided a map of the arterial congested segments. Also, we have 16 in very congested or important corridors such as Mesa, Montana, and Alameda. So one of the first steps we developed in order to perform this analysis on all these different corridors was to develop a segment profile, which basically gives us a very basic understanding of what's the current condition of the corridor. It gives us the length of the corridor, the number of lanes, whether it's served by transit, if there's stations in the area. Also, we collected the daily volumes for the most recent year we had, as well as for a prediction of what the volumes will look like in the future in 2050. We also developed a congested cost, which gives us how much these congestion issues is amounting in money within the corridor. And we provided, after this summary, we provided other characteristics of the corridor, which include some of the projects that have been taking place or that are proposed within the corridor that are aimed in the management of congestion. And we also have developed what we have called a congestion scan, which gives us a visual representation of what the congestion in the corridor is looking like, in what time of the day congestion is the heaviest, and in what segment of the corridor itself, from what street to what street the congestion is affecting the most. And this is divided by different times of the day. Then once this segment profile was completed, so once this segment profile was completed, we identified some performance measures that were required in order to better understand what the real issue or what is causing the real issue for congestion. So we identify these measures to be travel time index, average annual passengers hours of delay, average annual truck persons hours of delay, as well as CO2 release. So basically, travel time index gives us an idea of how much time people are spending on traffic in relation to when there's no traffic. Average annual passengers hours of delay gives us an estimated number of hours that people are stuck in traffic in these corridors. This is similar to annual truck persons hours of delay, but this is mostly focused on trucks. And lastly, CO2 release. This gives us an estimate of how much pounds of CO2 is released into the atmosphere directly related to congestion. So we have a base level when there's no congestion, and this gives us all the CO2 levels that are released above this level when there's no congestion. And this information was mostly gathered using the compact tool, which gathers information from text.rhino system as well as INRIX database. So here we have provided an example of what this analysis is looking like. So here we have the Northwest region. So here for the Northwest region we have two arterial congested segments that include I-10 and as well as Downtown and Mesa. So we have provided from where the segment starts to the finish of the segment that was analyzed, as well as with their ID in order to identify the corridors. And then using the information presented earlier for the performance measures, we developed these charts that gives us a kind of a trend of what the performance measures are behaving during the past 3 years from 2017 to 2019 from our latest data. So for example, in segment H3, which is I-10, we can see a reduction in travel time index, which basically is telling us that there's a reduction in congestion as some recent projects have been completed in the area. And this also translates to a decrease in persons hours of delay. However, there's still, as we can see from the graph, there's still some issues in regards to the Northwest or to the truck persons hours of delay. So this is one of the things that still needs to be addressed. And also, this all of it relates back to the CO2 release. As congestion reduces, the CO2 levels are also reduced. So we can also see that information in this chart with this example. After the completion of this performance analysis, we developed a trend map analysis as well. So this measures the effectiveness of some capacity and non-capacity strategies that have been developed in certain corridors in the reduction of congestion levels. So this gives us a before and after evaluation of the effects of these completed projects. So here we can see segment H3 once again. So before the completion of the projects in the corridor, we can see a lot of red and yellow colors which indicate that there's a reduction in speeds that basically tells us that there's slow moving traffic in the I-10 section. But then once the projects have been completed, we can see on the right map that the colors are mostly green, which signifies there has been a significant reduction in congestion. So this gives us a good understanding of whether the projects that have been implemented have been working as they have been intended to. So we have also created some potential strategies that are proposed within the RMS 2050 that will be evaluated based on the benefits that they provide to the reduction of congestion as well as the management of congestion. And these projects have been selected using the criteria of their proximity to the identified congested corridors we have previously mentioned. So here we have for the highway segments as well as for the arterial segments, we have a list of projects that will aid in the reduction of congestion. And lastly, we have some next steps.
Can I ask a question before, through the chair?
Can you take a question at this time? Go ahead, Jason.
On what year was this data based? I mean, I understand you had to have a base year to start this, but I also understand that conditions change and are changing rapidly in certain segments of the city. And was there any attempt to look into the future on that? Because I mean, I've noticed a couple of quarters there that have changed from last year.
Yes.
As far as congestion goes, and I wonder how you address that issue with it.
Yeah, so the base year we have right now is 2017, which is the farthest back information we have right now from the compact tool, which then we base that analysis from there and onto the next years that we have the information gathered.
And the next year's come up to 2020?
2020 is,
No, it's only 17, 18, and 19.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, thank you.
But yeah, for the profiles, we did look at forecasted volumes from the destino. But we're gonna continue, as I mentioned, this is a continuous process. So with the RMS, we're gonna be reevaluating these congested segments and gathering new data. I'm not sure we're gonna use 2020 because that information is very, and we didn't have the same traffic that we should have due to COVID. But we will continue gathering and revisiting those segments to see, like you mentioned, if some are no longer congested and if there are other segments that are now congested.
Thank you.
So to finalize the next steps for this analysis, we're going to be continuing with the before and after analysis as the one presented right now for the completed the projects and strategies. We're also going to continue gathering data for other performance measures that are not based on speed. And we're going to be developing a qualitative analysis of added capacity projects to be programmed in the tip years based on the submitted CMP questionnaires. So to give you more information on this, in the past years, there hasn't been any penalty for added capacity projects that are not evaluated or justified by that congestion management process. However, this might change now that the region has the possibility of being designated as non-attainment for ozone. So MPO staff in coordination with the TPAC members will need to establish an evaluation criteria for added capacity projects to be programmed in. And an initial assessment will be developed based in the information provided with the CMP questionnaire that were submitted during the couple projects.
Thank you.
For us.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Any more questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I see now that we can now move to item 2 on the agenda.
Before we do that, Madam Chair, if I could just make a comment to what Alderman Miller said. We are looking at the impact of 2020. I mean, 2020 clearly is a different year. You know, all of us collectively, I think, in the planning world, we're trying to figure out what 2020 means, you know, for us in the future. However, as we start, we went into 2021, and of course, you know, the vaccine started doing the positive things and all that, and as activities started picking up again, you know, we are pretty much, unless, I don't know how much you look at the traffic volumes on a daily basis, but we are very close to the pre-COVID levels as far as traffic. So, you know, obviously 2020 is a blip, and part of 2021 will be a blip. But I think in general terms and for planning purposes, you know, we will, you know, we'll figure out how to deal with that blip so that it doesn't you know, modify the long-term forecast, right? But yeah, it definitely 2020 and the first part of 2021 were interesting for planning purposes.
Mr. Godwell, I've been signaled that there is somebody that's gonna be making public comment on item number 2.
Actually, item 5, Chair, it's Mr. Scott White. He's on the phone.
Good morning.
Is,
Yeah, hold on, Scott. So the
Is-
public
is-
comment is on item 5.
on item 5.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Scott. And as a reminder, you have 3 minutes.
Yes, sir. Good morning, EPMPO. I'm glad you're back in the building. I hope I'll be able to join you soon when we get past this pandemic. Wanted to speak to item 5 this morning. My name is Scott White, Policy Director for Fellow Pacifiers and Pedestrian Coalition. And there at the end came up the crux of the matter that I wish to speak about, capacity versus non-added capacity. We cannot keep moving forward simply adding capacity to address congestion. Congestion is not the issue that we believe it to be in all situations. On a freeway, congestion is representative of failure of the system. On a street or a roadway, it may reflect the fact that there are desirable destinations there and people wish to attend that. If we think of it in a different way, when we see lots of people on a street, we think that is successful. But if we see slow-moving traffic, we see that as failure. We need to be rethinking the way we evaluate congestion and recognize that we cannot use a one-size-fits-all approach everywhere, because once we get off of the high-speed controlled road, that means people are interacting with the high-speed traffic. So when we have projects where we want people to be able to walk, bike, or use transit, we cannot also force them to engage with high-speed traffic, which is what we're expecting them to do on many of these arterials. This is part of what actually adds to our congestion, because we're actually adding more vehicles to the road because people don't feel like they can get about safely unless they are in one of those cars. People do not feel safe walking. People do not feel safe biking. They do not feel safe sitting next to the road waiting for their bus with that high-speed traffic, because the noise, the vibration, that is all detrimental to their well-being. We need to be reevaluating our system on what we want for the future. As policy board, this is your opportunity to step up and set that vision and be able to say, for the future, yes, we need freeways to operate as freeways, but we need our arterials to operate in such a way that they work for all people, not just simply people in cars. Because when we make an arterial or a regular road or even a street try to act as though it should have high-speed traffic, that is actually working against the good of the community, not just for the safety of people, but for the benefit of businesses. Because it is hard for people to slow down, to make that turn off, to get into that, to stop at that business, or to take that opportunity stop if they're hungry and they smell something wonderful.
Scott, your 3 minutes are up. Can you please wrap up?
Okay. Yes, sir. So what I'm asking here today is look beyond measurements like capacity and look at what we desire for our community as real methods for planning for the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott. Go ahead, Eric.
You know, I think it's important when we talk about congestion and we start looking at whether there's a lot of cars or traffic movement, our responsibility as a body is public safety. So congestion's not only a lot of cars, is how does public safety, are they able to move from one end of town to the other? So it's not just about a lot of cars. It's not about, at any given moment, because someone's life could depend on it. So it's important that we actually look at congestion as a way of making sure that our community stays safe and we're able to move through our community, whether it's an ambulance, a fire truck, police, but also a school bus. School buses are so important
that if an emergency happens, they can get to the schools and the buses have the ability to get through. So it's a little bit more than just traffic. It's a little bit more about cars moving or not moving.
Thank you, Mayor. Anybody else? Marisol, is that?
No, Chairman.
All right, thank you. All right, now then, we could go ahead and move on to item 2.
All right, so item 2 is a discussion and action to approve recommendation from the Transportation Project Advisory Committee. Item 2 is approve Regional Mobility Strategy RMS 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan draft financially constrained project list, including Sunland Park Port of Entry and connecting roadways project, subject to the City of Sunland Park submitting to the El Paso MPO a formal commitment letter agreeing to fund the Port of Entry project, as well as connecting roadways. And we have the chair of the TPAC, Mr. Greg McNichol.
Good morning, Greg McNichol, Chair of the TPAC. When this item came up on September 1st with us, I wanted to let you know that in our review of the item, we requested as a caveat to the approval, and our recommendation to approve to you was the letter from Sunland Park that had been received and been submitted to MPO, and so it's that component has been received. With this, I'm going to turn the program back over to and the item 2, Red Bargo.
Thank you, Chairman Finkel. So before we start the discussion here, just as Mr. McNichol alluded to, when we presented this list to TPAC, MPO staff brought up some of the concerns that were specific to this Port of Entry project that is sponsored by the City of Sunland Park. Some of the concerns have to do with several things. Part of the main concern was on the financial feasibility study, and Mayor Zagatti, I'm sure you can speak a little bit to that. But we had some questions on how the project was supposed to be funded. As you all know, projects that go into the MTP need to have some relative high level of confidence on funding, because the MTP is a fiscally constrained document. It's not a wish list. So we had some concerns about that. And in addition to that, we also had some concerns about the support that the project has. Because of course, a new port of entry implies a lot of coordination with multiple federal agencies, including CBP, General Service Administration, the State Department, et cetera, and also at the state level. So that was what we provided to TPAC, and so TPAC, we had some pretty good discussion there, and what TPAC recommended, and that's why you see this specific thing on the item, was for the City of Sunland Park to provide a commitment to fund the project. So 2 days ago, we received a letter from the City of Sunland Park that we consulted also with our legal counsel and to see how that letter if it satisfies or not. But I think the important thing here is to say that the project is going to be modeled in our 2032 network analysis year, and we're in 2021 now. So there's a lot of things that can happen between now and then. So from a mechanical perspective, and understanding that the city is committed to fund the project, if all the other alternative funding mechanisms do not materialize, we could include that project in the plan, and the plan is going to be modified several times before 2032. And if there is no substantial progress, the plan could be removed. I mean, the project would be removed from the plan. We're going to do this again in 4 years, right? That's what we have to do. So those are just some general ideas, and we're open to discussion.
Any questions?
Madam Chair. Thank you, Eduardo. And I just want to add, I do have technical staff online, so if there's also detailed questions about the studies, I do have them available for that as well. I do want to say that actually, I just came back from Santa Fe this week, or last night at 1 o'clock. I'm driving back up today. So we're working on the political support that we're talking about. But on the financial component, I do want to be clear that that my council has assured me that they are in support of this project, and we are open to using local funds for this project. Obviously, in any project, we are looking at any partnerships that we can grow and work with through the state and also through the federal government as well. So that's the financial component. Hopefully the letter is clear that shows that we have support.
Okay, so I do have a question then, based on what the mayor said and based on what you said, I've got to assume then that this satisfies the requirement that you needed in order to move forward.
Right,
with the
so
project.
with, I think at staff level, I think we're okay with that letter. We will show that the project, given that we don't have evidence of any other funding source to this point, that the project will be locally funded. That's how it could show in the plan.
And Mayor, are you in agreement with that?
I'm okay with that, as long as there's ability to, if that funding component can be changed, I'm okay with that.
Any other? Yes, go ahead, Trent.
If I may, just because the letter specifically addresses New Mexico DOT, all of the projects that are in the MTT for New Mexico, the locals are eligible for our local government program when those funding opportunities become available. So as Mayor Pereira mentioned, the letter talks about coordinating with NMDOT, but when they start moving forward with this project, they can certainly apply through us, through our local government program. It is going to be competitive, just like it is with all of the other funding categories. But that is an opportunity. I would like to say that the DOT is certainly supportive of the POE. We think that it provides an economic benefit to the region. We do have a little bit of concern about some of the economic reporting that they brought up, how they're going to maintain some of the roadways. I personally don't believe that our infrastructure is ready for the commercial traffic, but it's my understanding after talking to Summer Park staff, commercial is, although it's part of the report that we even have today, that they're not pursuing commercial access at the POE. But I've had discussions, for instance, with City of Summer Park staff about potentially taking over Summer Park Drive, so that then becomes another route that would fall under the jurisdiction of the city. Of course, eligible for federal and state funding. But I would say I think we're having some fairly positive discussions with staff. And at least from the DOT's perspective, I think we're okay with it being on the UTP list. Again, with the same understanding we've discussed, that it's fully funded, but they'll be able to apply through us for some additional funding in the future.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Yes, ma'am.
Being an international port of entry, there should be a lot of federal funding, and being that you need a presidential resolution before it can even move forward. Where are we at in that part of it? Because I know it takes like about 10 years. And if federal funding is available, where are we at with that also?
So, under the Trump administration, the process for a presidential permit application was changed. So we do have a presidential permit application in the federal government at this time. Obviously, there are still documents being reviewed. We still haven't received comments on that particular permit just yet. But that dialogue is happening with our consultants, and I'm not sure if they're online here. But we have that in process already, so there is an application in place.
And my next question would be, are you allowed to apply for funding through the federal government or anywhere else until you get your presidential permit?
Well, I think it's critical to get that permit first,
Right.
before you get, because they're not going to put the funding unless the permit is there. And I do want to add that we're also working on the Mexican side as well. So we have that, we have an application in the middle of that registro on the Mexican side, and hopefully we can get on their on the final Hacienda list, project list as well.
Yeah, and so my question would be, until you get the presidential permit or the application moving forward, I'm not quite sure when can funding be allocated and when can you apply for funding based on those criteria by the federal government?
Well, I could answer some of that.
Great, thank you.
So, as Mayor Perea said, there were some changes during the last Trump administration on the presidential permit process. But my understanding is that the agencies that process presidential permits, that include the State Department and General Services Administration and CBP, they are looking at going back at the old process. And the old process, when you submit an application for a presidential permit, you need to have a lot of work done, by then, before you submit it. You need to have some preliminary engineering, you need to have a solid financial plan, you need to have environmental clearance, and so on. But again, it's a, when you develop a solid financial plan, you must have some sort of good idea that yes, whether it's federal funding or state funding or local funding, whatever your plan is, you need to have a pretty good idea. So my understanding is that the city of Summer Park right now completed a feasibility study it is what it is. It's a feasibility study, and they have some ideas on engineering and so on, but they still need to do a lot of work, and in order to submit that solid presidential permit. And even if you get the permit, you still won't be able to do anything until you complete all those studies. So putting it in the MPO plan, the long range plan, it's one of the things that in the application of the presidential permit, you check the box. Is it in the MPO plan? Well, yes it is, but it's certainly no guarantee that the project will receive funding. They still have to go through the complicated process and long process.
Great, thank you. Mayor Perea, also, I know you and I had met prior, and that was probably in 14. Yeah, I know, a little while back, so I'd love to sit down with you and kind of get briefed and kind of look at all your plans, because, we're a region together, and I'd love to sit down with you and kind of look at it. If we can set some time aside in the next coming weeks, I would appreciate that a lot.
Absolutely.
Congresswoman Harrell had included this in her appropriation request in the federal budget.
And not just yet, not yet.
Okay. Thank you.
And this is directed at Mr. Cargo. This appears to me to be a license to hunt and necessary and transportation funding. We often plan out projects, whether they be road projects or whatever, years in advance without dedicated funding. So I don't see an issue with that. But my question to Mr. Conway is there any downside to including this on plan?
Not really when and Salvador is here, our expert in travel and map modeling, but it's very clear that any new border crossing that we build in our region, whether it's west of Santa Teresa, Summer Park, or within the Texas side, any new international crossing helps, because the existing crossings are congested, right? So it does help from a regional perspective, right? So there is obviously a benefit in putting more crossings. However, anytime that, like I said before, anytime that we add a project to the MTP, we need to have a relatively high level of confidence on the funding side, and that the project will move forward. So I think we're there at this point. Again, it's not a done deal. The fact that it's in the MPO plan is no guarantee of anything. But I think it's at this point that we're comfortable that it's recommended.
Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to approve this?
Chair?
Oh, there is one. I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
Yeah, sorry. One quick question, Eduardo. Just for clarification from process, from a process perspective, future projects that we want to include that is locally funded to make them eligible for federal funding in the future as well. I would love to get some guidance from the staff in the same way that we're looking at this project, where we don't have to true financial commitment, in a way that allows us to master plan future projects locally as well, and include them in the plan. I would love to kind of get some guidance as a way for us to move forward with.
Absolutely. Let me say to that point that when we went through the call for projects and the coordination with all the agencies, that were submitting projects, including the city of El Paso County, of Socorro, TxDOT, and all that, It's important also for us to understand the timing for the projects, because the timing is important in terms of the expectation for funding. So if you are proposing a project within the first 10 years, then we need to have a pretty high level of confidence that there is funding for that project, right? Could be, you know, a commitment from the locals, or projects that are already programmed in category 7 or 5, or in the case of tech stuff that is there in the UGP and all that. So the first 10 years, you know, the level of scrutiny is a little bit higher, right? In the outer years, it's not as strict. You know, we still have to be constrained, and we still need to have solid cost estimates for projects. But so, yeah, we'll be happy to discuss this a little bit more. But
Yeah, if we can get something in writing, just to give us some guidelines that we can go by, I think that would help us all.
excellent. And
Eduardo, and I have a question based on what Mr. Rodriguez asked. So it depends on the project itself as to what time period you would expect to actually have the funding in order to keep it on the plan and to proceed with it within that time frame?
correct. Yeah. So the process that we go through is a little complicated in the sense that on one side we have all the projects that the agency submitted. And by the way, you know, we did have, you know, pretty good coordination with each entity individually, because it's important for us also to understand what are the priorities of each entity, right? So yes, we can do all the analytical stuff, and we did Decision Lens, you know, running all the projects through that process as well. But it's also very important for us to understand which are the priorities of each group. But then the balancing act is when we look at the funding side. Say, okay, so regardless of the projects, how much money do we expect to have within, you know, between now and 2050, right? So it's a little bit of a balancing act in matching available funding with projects. So it's not you know, you don't press a button and automatically it spits it out, right? So this implied a lot of coordination and working with all the agencies, and you know, I'm really appreciative of all the help that we got from all the agencies that participated in the effort. And again, you know, it's not perfect in the sense that not everybody got what they wanted at the same time, but so there's a lot of you know, iterations, but I think we're pretty comfortable with where we are right now.
Okay, Alderman Miller?
Well, I'm just gonna comment, the process that we have, and the one that everybody else go through, and what we do on a regular basis, is somewhat catch-22 in nature. If you're not on the plan, it's not a project, but you have to have a plan to get it, you have to have financing to get into the plan, so it's somewhat catch-22. So in the outer years, there has to be some degree of faith baked in this, and accurate planning. So that's kind of what I understand with Maria's project is, not everything aligns yet, but it's not a project at all until you have it in some other plan.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, seeing no further discussion, is there a
Chair,
motion?
we have public comment.
Oh, we do. Okay. All right. Okay. Go ahead and proceed
We
with the
have
public.
Mr. Robert Stork.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Bob Storch. I live in Sunset Heights. I want to express my opposition to the inclusion of downtown 10 in the regional mobility strategy. Why are we moving forward with an expensive, unnecessary infrastructure project when TxDOT is not fully funding it? The statewide Unified Transportation Plan, recently adopted by the Texas Transportation Commission, fully funds multi-billion-dollar projects in Houston and Austin, yet it requires El Paso to fund $688 million of this $750 million project by sacrificing the majority of more necessary local projects. On Monday, the County Commission Court unanimously voted to hire an engineer to do an independent review of this project. I believe that analysis will show that TxDOT manipulated or cherry-picked data to support a project based on a flawed, outmoded design concept. It's a fact, widening urban highways induces demand and increases congestion. Suburban highways with frontage roads induce sprawl. El Paso needs plans to reduce both. As presently conceived, downtown 10 will increase congestion, vibration, noise, and air pollution. It will not improve our quality of life or enhance development downtown or in surrounding neighborhoods. The MPO should be working with both the Texas and New Mexico Departments of Transportation to develop a comprehensive plan to mitigate, reduce, or eliminate through traffic, especially trucks, from central El Paso, not increase it. From the get-go, the entire Reimagine I-10 concept is flawed. It fails to look beyond the existing highway corridor. An overview of the entire Paso del Norte region shows that all cross-border, cross-country traffic does not have to go through downtown El Paso. Anyone who can read a map can see the Anthony Gap provides a level, unpopulated, and safe route around the city. Because of its narrow focus, a bypass was never part of Reimagine I-10. Properly built, an Anthony Gap bypass would not increase time or distance due to transcontinental traffic. Over 50 years ago, Interstate 10 cut through downtown El Paso, destroying homes, businesses, further isolating neighborhoods in a city already divided 80 years previously by the railroad. As the interstate road surface nears its life expectancy and needs repairs, now is the time to correct the urban design mistakes of the past, not double down on them.
Thank you, Mr.
We need
George.
new transportation vision for a better city, more sustainable city, built for people. Well-designed urban streets don't have to be wide and fast to be efficient. Smart zoning, infill development, mass and transmodal transportation systems will reduce congestion, sprawl, air, noise, pollution, making our city more livable. Downtown 10 is not a way
Can you
forward.
please wrap up?
We can do better. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else, Marisol?
Yes, Chair, Angel Ulua, she's on the phone.
Hello, I'm here. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Hello, as mentioned, my name is Angel Yaw, and I'm here representing Sunrise El Paso. But I looked at the results from TxDOT's funding survey sent out from July through August, I believe that was the time period. And I want to share what I found because I can put a lot of this in perspective. So out of the 232 results from those that listed themselves as being from El Paso, 63 of those were in support of the expansion, 159 not in support, and 10 were not listed specifically. So out of those 63 support, we found that a clear majority of them will benefit monetarily from this project. Among the people that benefit financially, the overwhelming majority were engineers or employed by companies who do business with TxDOT, and several are state or local government employees, including some who are working on this project. Many of them are probably here today. Those not listed as belonging to one of the three categories still have some interest, however, in this expansion. Take, after extraction, we found that, take Ana Picano, for example, whose comment stated, I am in support of the project, but failed to mention that she was also Ortega's notary when he filed as a lobbyist for the city, who also submitted comments in support of the expansion. So when broken down, only about 10 of those in support came from citizens or community members with no financial interest in this project, but are under the impression that this will be beneficial for our city. So take that compared to the 159 not in support. They represent an array of community members from all over the city. These include teachers, students, artists, small business owners, concerned residents who will be directly affected, and even engineers that understand the negative implications to the interconnection. We have taken time to research concepts like induced demand, review studies about highways and air pollution, heard first-hand testimonies about the destruction of neighborhoods to build highways in the first place, and efforts across the country to repair that damage, which a deck park, by the way, on a few blocks of the 6 Mile project does not do that. So what I'm saying here is that you've heard many reasons why this project is flawed. The more people learn about it, the more the public will object, as we see in these results of the TechStop survey. So please do the right thing, listen to the community, and dump this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. No, okay, no other comment. Then we can now move on, I assume, to see if there is a motion to approve item 2 on the agenda to add this project to the RMS 2020. Is there a motion?
So move, Madam Chair.
Is there a second? Oh, a second. Any discussion? Right. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
The motion passes.
Thank you. All right, so we'll proceed with item 3, which is also coming from TPAC. Item 3 is to approve the September 2021 project readiness report, and again, back is the chair of the committee.
Madam Chair of the TPAC. Glad to report this project readiness report is a report that we did quarterly. I've been doing it for several years now, and it's doing exactly what we wanted to do, which is bringing attention to projects to make sure they stay on schedule. I am happy to report that we only have 3 projects that have an alert. One has a low, 2 have a medium. They are all on schedule currently, and the medium projects are the only ones that are close to the deadline, which is why we highlight that with the medium category to make sure it stays on track. The low alert is one of the first ones you come to, which is the Passmore Road Share Use Path along the Franklin Canal to the Upper Clint Lateral. It's a 12-foot pathway shared use, and it's a low alert. The 2 medium alerts are I-10 projects. IH-10 widening from FM 1905 to State Highway 20. This is on the far, on the northwest side of town. It has PS&E and utilities that are within 2 months of the let dates, and so that's why they're getting the medium alert. But TechStop is indicating that's well underway. They understand where they are. And the other one is a Loop 375 widening and frontage roads from spur 601 to US 62 180, which is Montana. And again, no same thing there. It's just they've got the PSE and utilities that are within 2 months of the lead date, so that causes a medium alert to turn on, if you will. So glad to report, recommend it for your approval.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the project readiness report?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second? There's a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
Anyone against? The motion passes. You can now move on to item number 4.
Item 4 is to approve the amended public participation plan.
And, good morning again. This is an item that was presented to TPAC on September 1st. I know that the EPMPO does have a presentation where they're going to go through and highlight where the changes are in the public participation plan. That would give you a better sense of what you're voting on. So I'm going to turn the floor over to Joe Stephanie.
The chair and TPB members, Jeff Howell with the EPMPO. Item 4 on the agenda is to provide an overview of the amended public participation plan, which recently ended its 45-day public comment period and is now being brought forward for your final approval after receiving a recommendation from the Transportation Project Advisory Committee. Here's a list of the general topics that will be discussed for this item today, which you can see here in the table of contents. We'll begin by providing you with an overview of the public participation plan and the initial amendments to the document, as well as an overview of the public comment period, followed by additional updates to the plan based on those comments received and other items from our staff. And finally, an overview of the support information that is also part of the backup for this item. We first wanted to begin the presentation by providing you with a brief overview of the public participation plan itself. The public participation plan, or PPP for short, outlines the strategies and activities used to engage the public in transportation planning and decision-making process. So as part of the continuing effort to improve public engagement, the El Paso MPO is amending the public participation plan. The minimum length of the public comment period is 45 days whenever a PPP is developed or amended. While this document was recently amended last year in 2020, we are looking to amend it again to address a few additional items that have been identified, which I'll go through in more detail on the following slides. With the amendment that is being brought forward at this time, here's a look at the amendments that were initially found in the draft that was previously provided. We are updating the public participation plan to include the annual listing of obligated projects, which is a report of how funds were spent in the last year on transportation projects, include the updated Title VI complaint procedures and forms, which were also recently updated, address minor typos and grammatical errors, and to update various website links that were modified during the website update this spring to ensure that they are working properly. There is one item that we wanted to provide a correction on, which is regarding updates to the executive committee section. Well, amendments were previously included in the draft version of the PPP that was provided. This was an oversight in preparing the document, and there are actually no changes proposed in this section from what is in the current public participation plan. All the proposed updates and amendments can be found in the redline version of the document that is included in the support information in order for you to see where the updates occurred from the current public participation plan. There were also additional redlines based on the comments, which can be found in the comment matrix and will be presented in further detail on the additional slides in the presentation. The first of these amendments is the annual listing of obligated projects. This item was something that was identified by the Federal Highway Administration, or FHWA, as needing to be included as part of the public participation plan. So it is being incorporated during this amendment, since it was not part of the current public participation plan. Therefore, with this amendment, this section now incorporates the annual listing of obligated projects, when it is to be developed, and where it is to be posted upon completion. The areas on the document where the updates occurred can be seen here on this slide, which is also shown in the redline version that is part of your backup for this item. The annual listing of obligated projects is a report posted on the MPO website 90 days after the fiscal year is over that discloses the funds that have been obligated in the previous year in order to provide the public with an understanding of how those funds have been spent on the transportation system. Next are the updates to the Title VI complaint procedures and forms. The Title VI complaint documents were updated last year as part of several amendments to the Title VI program, some of which included the complaint procedures and the complaint forms themselves, and that have them in both English and Spanish. So with that, since these updated documents are included here, they are as part of the public participation plan, and therefore incorporated as part of this amendment, which you can see here in both the table of contents as well as the appendices themselves. This also provides for consistency across each of the documents. Another amendment that we wanted to provide were several instances of minor typographical and grammatical errors to be addressed. In reviewing the current public participation plan, there are portions of the text that include errors such as repeated words, spacing issues, or sentence structures that could be modified to make it more accurate and consistent. While it does not change the meaning of what's being said, this is being done to ensure that the document is both legible and understandable. And finally, the last of these initial amendments in the draft public participation plan document that was provided was to update various website links throughout the document. With recent updates to the website, some of the links that were identified in the current public participation plan were no longer accessible. This is being included as part of this update to provide accurate current website information and to ensure that the public has access to the information produced and maintained by the El Paso MPO. As mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, There is a correction that needed to be made from what was initially included as part of the draft document that was provided, and that is regarding the provisions for the executive committee, which can be seen here. While this was included as part of the draft document that was previously presented, this was unfortunately an oversight, and therefore no changes are actually being proposed to the language from what is in the current public participation plan that was approved in 2020. This is further reflected in the red line version of the document, which again, you can see that no changes are proposed in the executive committee section. As we initially presented to you back in July, similar to other MPO documents, there was a public comment period for this document from July 6th to August 20th. During this time frame, public comments were able to be submitted to the MPO through the MPO website, email, or mail directly to the MPO office. There were also 2 virtual public meetings that were held. The first of these was in July, just a few weeks after the public comment period began, followed by another meeting with the same content that was presented in case someone was unable to attend the first meeting in mid-August. Staff did receive 1 email from the public, which was sent from the New Mexico Department of Transportation. This feedback can be found in the comment matrix included as part of the support information for this item. Each of these comments have been addressed and provided for your consideration. Since these comments did initiate a few updates, which are shown in red on the matrix, these can also be found in the red line version of the document as well. In addition to these updates based on the public comments received, there are some additional amendments that we wanted to share with you as well that were proposed by MPO staff for a variety of topics which can be seen here, and they may occur within section 4 in the cover page. As mentioned at the last TPB meeting, the first of these was to update the Tier 1 and Tier 2 amendment section to provide a definition for major and minor changes, to improve our processes with regards to certain types of amendments, especially for those projects falling within the Transportation Improvement Program, and better align amendment processes with other entities. The next was to provide clarification that the public participation plan has a longer public comment review period. In this case, is 45 days instead of the typical 30 days with other documents that's produced. The next one is to clarify a reference to page 62 of the Texas Open Meetings Act, which no longer is the correct page number for this particular reference, so it's been revised to be more general as that document evolves over time. Next, similar to other MPO documents, we wanted to include the approval date of this document by the TPB on the cover page to make it more clear for both the public as well as staff as to when it was approved, and also just for reference purposes. We also added the approval dates on the cover pages of both Appendix B and Appendix C to clearly indicate that those are separate documents which are approved by the Transportation Policy Board independently of the Public Participation Plan and are included here only for reference. And lastly, the final additional amendment was to indicate that while urgent modifications to documents may occur, the Public Participation Plan is not eligible to have this reduced timeline due to federal requirements. All of these additional updates can be found in the red line version of the document, which you will see on various pages. And finally, I should provide you with a brief overview of the support information that you'll see as part of the backup for this item. The first of these is the red line version of the document, which includes all the amendments to the current public participation plan that we discussed here today, both the initial and the newly added amendments. All the changes are denoted by the red text. The next is the final version of the document with all the red lines removed. So it's a readable, clean version for approval. This is the final document that's being brought forward today for your approval by the Transportation Policy Board. And the last is the comment matrix. This includes the comments received, as well as the responses to those specific comments and the updates associated with them that are shown in the red text. The matrix also includes additional amendments that MPO staff proposed, which we just covered, to provide both the reason and the actual updates themselves. Again, as mentioned, all these items are included in the matrix. They're also reflected in the red line version of the document as well. And that concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I don't see anybody that's raised their hand to ask a question. So is there a motion to approve item 4 on our agenda? Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody against? Motion passes, and we can now, that's it. Yeah, okay. So we can now move on to item 6 on the agenda, which is under reports. Mr.
So
Godfrey.
item 6 is the Highway Emergency Response Operator Hero Program. Next up, we'll be making a presentation, and again, Tomas, I don't know if you want to introduce.
Yes, I do. So we have Eduardo Perales, our Director of Transportation Operations, and Eduardo Adaman ready to do this presentation and talk about some of the benefits that it brings to the traveling public and the help it provides to some of the first responders in allowing them to do their job, especially for some of these incidents that occur that are not life-threatening. It allows them to continue their primary objective in providing public safety. So with that, I'm going to call Eddie up and have him start the presentation.
Good morning, everyone. Again, Eduardo Perales. Thank you, Board, for allowing us to bring this update. Like Tomas mentioned, we have finalized year 1 of the 2-year funding program. So we just wanted to bring an update of what has been going on throughout the year, just showcase those benefits that the community has seen in this program and the entire El Paso region. So very quick, we're going to go over a short video produced by our public information officer, which is one of several that we launched in our social media platforms to reach out to the public and give them some information, and also to make them aware of what's going on and how to reach them. This is it captures the whole program in a nutshell, so I think it's very interesting. And then I'm going to hand it over, like Tomas said, to Eduardo Adame, and he's going to go ahead and cover some details about a current study that we have in place to kind of analyze what this program is doing right now. And then finally, he's going to touch us on some really mind-blowing data-driven statistics that you're going to be able to see just how many incidents, not just incidents, but how many people that they've been able to assist out in the road. And then with that, I'll just finalize with what's next for the program.
An emergency. Now drivers and law enforcement have a hero to help. Not the comic or cartoon kind. Our TxDOT heroes roll out in their patrol units equipped and ready to assist. Being stuck in traffic can be stressful enough. Being stuck in traffic, stress. Imagine breaking down or encountering an emergency. Now drivers and law enforcement being stuck in traffic can be stressful enough. Imagine breaking down or encountering an emergency. Now drivers and law enforcement have a hero to help. Not the common. Cartoon kind. Our TxDOT heroes
safety of the road.
And ready to assist. The TxDOT El Paso District launched the Highway Emergency Response Operator Program June 15th of 2020, and since then has assisted more than 21,000 incidents. The program aimed at improving
The
safety
Textile
for
Paso
stranded
District
motorists
launched
and
the
first
Highway
responders.
Emergency
Consists of a
Response
fleet of
Operator
patrol
Program,
vehicles that
June
assist
15
weekdays on El Paso County's
and
three
since
major
then has
highways,
assisted more than
I-10, Loop 375, and US
The
54.
program,
Aimed at
crews have
improving
seen many
safety for
issues
stranded
with cars
motorists and first
overheating and
responders.
tires being
Consists
over
of a
or
fleet of patrol
underinflated.
vehicles that
Another
assist
top call,
weekdays on El
debris
Paso
cleanup.
County's three major
Drivers
highways
have been grateful.
I-10, Loop 375, and US 54.
Friendly and very helpful.
Crews have seen many
Made
issues
me
with
feel
cars
very
over.
safe. I love this program. Also helped to get me calmed down and water to refresh.
Don't let
Something always happens.
It's playing, audio is playing, it's just the volume on the television is there.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
Being stuck in traffic can be stressful enough. Imagine breaking down or encountering.
It just talks about the population, right? This talks about the acronyms are for. Talks about our fleet. We have on every shift. We have and then we have another tow truck. And then right here, this officer states about how quick.
Which also aids the safety of the road.
And here it's going to be the actual. This is another tow truck. We have two. In every shift. And that talked about how to get a hold of one, so I have Hero. And it talked about the debris that they have found, all of the incident management that they're out there. And then these are the routes Monday through Friday, and they're out there 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. No service during the weekends. And they provide gas as well for the traveling public. Air if they need to. Again, I said the flat tires. Those are entire fleet right here. And these are kind of some good notes that we received from the public, that they were able to get out there quickly. They felt safe once they arrived to the scene. This one just said, you can read there, it says God sent, like they never showed up. Sometimes it just takes a while to get there. Just gonna go to a truck and what they have. What our PIO is taking. That's the Hero. And then they're helped by Transvista Center, which they're looking at the cameras. They have their own dispatchers, but we help them out as well. They look at the cameras. And here he does talk about the importance of them and the help that they've gotten, that they're out there ready even before they get dispatched. So that's something that's out of their way, that they don't need to assist frequently.
Is that the video now?
No, that's something else.
Oh, it's okay. If you could please mute your phones, those that are on online.
They got it.
That should be it.
Thank you for the explanation.
Wait a couple minutes or something.
It's funny, it's because the video made PowerPoint freeze.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Good morning, everyone. My name is Eduardo Adame. I'm a transportation engineer for the traffic section of the Paso District. And I wanted to start with the HERO program study that TechStat is currently developing with the main objective of identifying strategies to measure the health of the program. We want to make sure, TechStat wants to make sure that the program is providing a benefit for first responders and the traveling public. As part of the study, a stakeholder survey was developed to measure the acceptance of regional partners, as well as identifying potential areas of improvement. On that survey, 15 different agencies participated in the survey, and the results of the survey show that close to 90% of the respondents feel that the HERO program meets the vision and objectives of the program. The survey also indicated that the program significantly provides a significant benefit by enhancing safety for first responders, enhancing safety for the traveling public, reducing non-recurrent congestion, and improving transportation system reliability. Now let's talk about the numbers. Now that the HERO program has been active for a little bit over a year, we've been able to gather enough information to show how the program is performing. As we can see on the screen, this graph represents the total number of incidents reported on our major highways or corridors between October 19 to June of 2021. As we can see in orange, before the HERO program started, we were averaging 600 incidents per month, where police department and maintenance forces would respond to those incidents. After the HERO program started, we saw a significant increase in reported incidents, an average of 1,900, close to 1,900 incidents per month were reported. And what does this graph represent? What does it tell us? Well, it tells us that the HERO program has been able to assist stranded motorists and first responders 3 times as much as we used to before the HERO program started. Now that we know that the reported incident, that we have more coverage, we have more eyes on the roadways, the total number of incidents increased because we were able to assist more or reach out to more first responders and stranded motorists. Let's talk about the type of incidents that the HEROs assisted during those incidents. As we can see on this graph, what's shown in blue and orange accounts for 60% of the total incidents, and that's disabled vehicles and abandoned vehicles. Unfortunately, we have seen many fatalities and serious injuries where a disabled vehicle or an abandoned vehicle was involved in a crash. That's why it's extremely important to continue this program, have the resources to be able to assist stranded motorists and be able to remove those abandoned vehicles from those hazardous areas to a safe place before an accident happens. Previous slides show incident type. Now let's talk about the services that were provided during those incidents. This graph here represents, shows the services that were provided during those incidents. Now, as we can see at the very top, the HERO program protected the scene for first responders or stranded motorists, the traveling public, 21,000 times in 1 year. And over the course of 1 year, the HEROs have been able to assist in 21,000 incidents. That is a very impressive number. And aside from that, also HEROs assisted changing a tire or giving air to 1,300 incidents. They also provided fuel for stranded motorists 531 times. Relocated vehicles from dangerous areas to safe locations 757 times. Or tow vehicles from hazardous locations to a safe location 406 times. We also wanted to show total crashes along I-10, US 54, and Loop 375 for the El Paso County through the years. As we can see, between 2016 and 2019, El Paso saw an average of 5,100 crashes per year. Those are a lot of crashes, and one of the reasons why it's extremely beneficial to have or to continue our hero program to be able to assist in those incidents. On a side note, as we can see for 2020 and 2021, they saw a reduction of crashes. Granted, pandemic might have had an effect on the reduction of those crashes because we have less vehicles on the roadways. But we do believe that safety initiatives or strategies, such as our hero program, have also had an impact on the reduction of those crashes. Lastly, we want to talk about what's next. What are we going to be working on in the near future? Well, first of all, we want to finalize the hero program study. We want to develop performance metrics to help show the health of the program. We also want to develop dashboards to help us showcase the benefits of the program to everyone. We are working on a couple of future initiatives as well. One of those initiatives is we want to expand the hours of operation of the program. As the video and the blog that I just mentioned, the current hours of operation are Monday to Friday, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. One of the mid-range initiatives that we're looking at is potentially expanding hours to the weekends. And then in the long range, if the need is there, maybe 24/7 operation. Another future initiative that we're looking at is identifying needs for the expansion of the program. We know that there's many different corridors within the region that would greatly benefit from this program. And as you can see on this graph here, or map, what's shown in blue is the existing routes. What's shown in red is what has been identified as a need. Segments such as I-10 from Trans Mountain to the state line, Spur 601, or Border West are some of those identified segments that would greatly benefit from this program. And with that, I'll pass it back to Eduardo Peralez with some closing remarks.
So again, just want to thank the board. Back in October of 2016, you guys approved the $4.3 million in Category 7 for this program to take place. It's a 2-year contract currently with the potential of going 2 more years, one and then another one. So again, this program, like Eduardo mentioned, it just touched on everything that we've done as far as what the Heroes has done with the program, making sure that they've assisted stranded motorists, where there are people. I don't know if anybody has had the opportunity to experience this on a flat tire and I-10. It doesn't feel nice, even if you wait further. This just makes it a lot safer. In this case, there's a military convoy here that they've assisted. Like I said, law enforcement, it just goes on and on. The amount of seen 21,000 times in 1 year is a lot. So with that, I just want to close it out saying that we do have the 2 types of trucks out here parked in the front. The meeting's over. If you guys feel you want to be out there, answer any questions for you all. The details, we have our program manager here as well. And with that, I'll end it. I appreciate your time.
I think there's some questions.
And you may have said it, I may have missed it. Is this program unique to El Paso, or is it in other districts in Texas?
It is now part of Austin, San Antonio, Dallas, and Houston. Most of our metro districts have it. They all range in different coverages, more highways, more miles, weekends, 24/7 operations, but it is a service cities.
Thank you. And the second question, are they also funded with Category 7 funding?
They have a mix. Some are fully Category 7, some have a mix of regional partners, and some a big mix, several, especially the Houston district.
But for this group, this Heroes group here is strictly Category 7 funding. You don't have any other mix thrown in?
Not at this time. This was just 4.3 of Category 7.
Thank you.
I think there's a question over here.
So I just, the Albuquerque district has something similar, and Las Cruces is starting to experience a lot of traffic. Just 2 weeks ago, 4 of our employees were struck by a car and we didn't have really any kind of protection. I'm just curious, you know, have you had situations where your employees are involved in accidents? Have you been struck? I mean, how many accidents and injuries have your employees had?
Yeah, I'm aware of none right now as far as any major incident. But you're right, I mean, they do a very, very dangerous job out there. They are highly trained, a lot of training goes through them for protecting the scenes, taking a rating if needed. For that, I mean, it just sees, we talked about mobility, we talked about it, we both about us right now. Mobility and safety is a big issue.
That's incredible. My compliments to you all in the program and the fact that you've been able to do that without.
Yeah, one of the things that that wasn't mentioned is they do give us an additional tool for inclement weather that allows our crews to continue to fight the weather and the HERO program to help stranded motorists. So that's one of the, you know, we are allowed through changers to work extended hours, and they've been more than helpful during some of these inclement weather situations we've had.
Just recently, the flooding, they were out there as well.
Thank you. Mayor?
You know, if you remember Alderman Miller and a lot of the people that were here prior, back in 15, 16, when we were doing a lot of the construction on the highways, we had a lot of cars that were breaking down, it was causing accidents, and this body kind of came up with a deal to try to find funding to pay for tow trucks to be stationed around the community for the safety of the public and to be able to move the cars off the freeway. And looking at this program that you all were able to come up with and the program that you have today, I want to just congratulate everyone on the incredible job that we took a thought that really was something that was causing a lot of problems for our community, and we didn't have the ability to do what y'all are doing today, but you guys took it not only to the next level, to the next, I don't know how many levels. So congratulations on doing this, and I'm very happy and proud to sit here with y'all and see what you've done for the safety of the community and how you've taken it to the next level.
Well, you know, one of the things I want to make mention is this is an NPO board initiative.
Yes, no, that's where there was this body that talked about it back in, you know, Miller remembers this, that we talked about it because the freeways were being built and there were cars breaking down, and then there were accidents and people were losing their lives because the cars were stuck. You know, we were down to 2 or 3 lanes, and when that happened, and one of the lanes, a car broke down, and semis or cars are going through the interstate, these accidents were happening. So we had that discussion to try to get state tow trucks to just get in there and just hook them up and get them off the roadway, so we would, for the safety. Like I said, you guys took it to totally next level, and congratulations.
Thank you all.
And on that, Eduardo did touch as well on the need to expand. We did that, and we talked about in 2016 about the major construction of I-10, which we eliminate the shoulder at some times during construction. It will happen again on the west side of town.
Exactly. So
again, those are the things that we need to identify. And if we could expand, if we have the possibility. Eduardo wants to touch on something as well.
If I can.
Go ahead.
So going back to the project list, there was the funding of the HERO program is included in the project list. There's a line item there for, I think it's $2.4 million that will take the program for 2 years, I understand.
It's averaging about 1.9.
Okay, so there is some money there, at least to keep it alive for 1 more year until we can, you know, figure out and find more money.
Eduardo, if I could ask you, when is that something that we would be considering in terms of whether to renew and to continue with the program? Because based on everything that we've learned today, it's been a very effective program.
Right. That's a very good point. So as far as the timing, going back to item 2, that you approve the project list, you know, we still have to go and develop the documents and all that, the MTP, but there's also the new transportation improvement program that goes along with that, which is funding the project for the next 4 years. So you will see this project as one of the projects that will use $2.4 million in fiscal year 22. That will keep it alive at least, you know, for that year until we find, you know, more money or other funding sources are identified. And again, that's something that we can discuss. If this is something that the board wishes to do, we can, find a way to add more funding. But at least, this is going to keep it in operation for about a year and a half.
So to come forward, and we're looking at another, maybe one segment to add.
Thank you. Any more discussion, any questions?
Madam Chair?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
I just want to say that it's a great program. The city council just approved this year $1.8 million for the El Paso Vision Zero program in support of the Road to Zero. And it's all based on data, and I really like to collaborate with you all just to marry these two programs, and there's some of the initiatives that we're going to come up with as well as the city.
Right, and just to touch on that, the secondary incidents and fatalities that we will be capturing, hopefully presenting back to you all, is also very important. Those secondary crashes are very ended. This helps a lot.
All right, thank you. So we can now move on to item 7, committee report.
All right. Item 7 is the Regional Mobility Strategy RMS 2020 Project Development Status Report. This is the monthly report that we provide to you all on a monthly basis, highlighting progress on the RMS 2020 projects. There's, I think, only good news to report that since we finished or we're finishing the fiscal year, the federal fiscal year, you see that all the projects that were scheduled in 2021 led as scheduled initially in 2021. So that's a kudos to everybody, the city, the county, TxDOT, everybody that had the projects scheduled. So again, now we're moving on the projects that are scheduled in 2022. You will see that a couple of them are going to move to 2023. There's, normal project development, circumstances that are going to be forcing a couple of these projects to move to 23. But so all the information is in your backup. If you have any questions, happy to answer them.
Item 8.
All right, so item 8, Executive Director Report, August meeting of the Texas Transportation Commission. This is just a brief report to let you all know that several of us went to the Texas Transportation Commission, attended that meeting in August where the UTP was approved to provide some comments. We wanted to make sure that El Paso was heard, and very specifically to talk about the reimagined I-10 Segment 2 or Downtown 10, to make clear that the proposal that TxDOT and the Commission made to us that added a little bit more money in exchange for the EPMPO committee to fund the rest of the project, that was not acceptable, and that's why in the final version of the UTP you did not see that. So we went back just to the basic funding, that of $4 million in Category 4, which is a token, but I think more importantly is that it really opens up the door for us to start the serious conversations with TxDOT to get the project funded in next year's UTP. So I was there along with Rep. Ortega. Chair, you want to say anything about that?
Well, yeah, just to kind of reiterate what you just said. Again, we thank the commission for the fact that the project was included on the UTP, because that is a major step before we can get additional funding. It has to be a part of that. And we did tell them that we would be working with them, and that work is going to start fairly quickly in terms of getting the additional funding through the commission in the next year's UTP, and seeing what it is, what type of commitment that they want from this policy board. But they do understand that the remaining amount is significant, and that we're looking at them for the substantial amount that we need to complete the project.
And with that, just to say that, as you've heard us say many times, we really need good participation from all the stakeholders in El Paso, from policy board members or in their individual capacities as elected officials, but also working very closely with the private sector, the Mobility Coalition, and we just really need to make sure that El Paso is heard, that they know how important I-10 is, not just for us, but for the state of Texas and for the country, being such an important coast-to-coast corridor. So with that, let me move on to item B, which is the Freight Advisory Committee.
There's a question,
Oh.
Mayor?
You know, and I thank y'all for going there, because I think it's important that where the project is important, but also the form of funding is so important to us to see before we can totally understand where we're heading with it. So I think that was so important that you all were over there and discussed that, because for us to be able to move forward, I think the funding is going to be so important for us to make that final determination.
All right, let me move on to item B, which is the Freight Advisory Committee. This is another important statewide committee that TxDOT organizes along with the Board of Freight Advisory Committee. It's the first time that this committee met in person, since the start of the pandemic, so it was interesting to fly to Austin and participate in this meeting. Again, we have a new member from El Paso, BJ Smith from American Petroleum, and he's very excited about participating, being a member of the committee, and again, making sure that El Paso is well represented, and that at the state level they hear what we need and what we do, and how important we are also for the state of Texas. With that, that's all I have. If you have any questions on anything, happy to answer.
Okay. I see no questions, and so now we are up for a motion to adjourn.
So be.
A second?
Second.
All right, we are officially adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend, everyone.